You still think about them, not because you want to, because something in you refuses to stop. And you've tried everything. You've talked it to death with your friends, you've journaled, you've deleted their number, you've started dating someone new. And still, in the quiet moments, in the space between sleeping and waking, they're there. And the worst part isn't the longing. The worst part is that you understand it shouldn't be this way. You're not naive. You know what they did, you know how it felt. And still you can't close the door all the way. So let me ask you something nobody asks in these conversations. What if your inability to let go isn't a weakness? What if it isn't even psychological? What if it's a signal? Now, before you answer that, let's be honest about the explanation you've already been given. Because you've heard it, probably more than once. It's a trauma bond. It's your attachment style. It's your wounded inner child recognizing a familiar pattern from your parents. You're addicted to the cycle. You confuse intensity with intimacy. And look, that's not wrong. There's real insight in all of it. The psychology is valid. But here's what bothers me about it. It explains how you got stuck. It doesn't explain why this person. Why not someone else who also triggered your wounds? Why not the one before them or the one before that? Why does this specific soul have a gravity that the others simply don't? Trauma bonding doesn't answer that. Attachment theory doesn't answer that. Something else is going on. And the psychological framework, as useful as it is only seeing half the picture. Edgar Cayce spent decades doing something extraordinary. While in a trance state, he would read the soul's history, not just the current life, but the long arc of lives lived before. And again, in thousands of readings, he kept encountering the same phenomenon. People would come to him confused about relationships that made no rational sense, loves they couldn't explain, connections that felt ancient the moment they began. And Cayce would go quiet. And then he would say something that stopped people completely. He would say, "You have known this soul before." Not metaphorically, not as a feeling, as a fact recorded somewhere in the memory of the soul itself. He described how we reincarnate not alone but in clusters. Small groups of souls that travel through time together, switching roles, meeting again, picking up threads that were dropped in other lifetimes. The mother who becomes the daughter, the enemy who becomes the lover, the stranger on the street whose face makes your heart do something you can't explain. Cayce called it soul recognition. That feeling of inexplicable familiarity, of knowing someone before you know them, isn't imagination. It's memory. Ancient, wordless, cellular memory. Now sit with that for a moment, because I'm not asking you to believe it yet. I'm just asking you to notice, doesn't it explain something that nothing else quite does? But here's where I need to stop you, because if you're nodding along thinking, yes, we're soulmates, we're meant to be together, this is the universe's way of saying we belong to each other. That's not what Cayce said. That's what the ego heard. Cayce never said that soul recognition means belonging together. He never said that the pull you feel is a sign to stay. In fact, some of his most striking readings described the most painful relationships, the ones defined by betrayal, by longing, by cycles of hurt, as the most karmically significant ones. Not because suffering is sacred, but because the soul doesn't choose easy mirrors, it chooses honest ones. And this is the moment everything shifts. Because there's a question underneath the question you've been asking. You've been asking, why can't I stop loving them? But the real question, the one your soul has been trying to get you to ask, is this: who do I become in the presence of this person? Not who they make you, who you become. Think about it carefully. Around this person, parts of you surface that don't appear anywhere else. A neediness you didn't know you had. A jealousy that surprises you. A tenderness so deep it frightens you. A wound so old it has no name. You've been looking at them, at what they do, at what they don't give you, at who they are or aren't. But the soul was never looking at them. The soul was looking at you, at what this relationship was excavating, at what it was forcing to the surface, at the parts of yourself that were buried so deep that only this specific friction with this specific person could bring them up. That's not a trauma bond, that's a mirror, the most brutal and most necessary kind. And only now we can go all the way into what Cayce actually believed. Because Cayce described something that most people, even those who study him, tend to soften when they repeat it. They make it comfortable. He didn't mean it to be comfortable. He believed that before incarnating, souls make agreements, not vague, poetic agreements, specific ones. Agreements to meet, to challenge, to reflect, to complete something that was left unfinished in another time, in another body, under another name. Which means the person who is hurting you and whom you cannot stop loving may be someone your soul specifically sought out. Not to be happy with, not to build a life with, but to finish something with. A debt that isn't financial, an understanding that was never reached, a farewell that happened too soon or too violently or without truth. And the love you feel, that irrational, persistent, maddening love, is the soul's way of saying we're not done yet. Not done with the relationship necessarily, done with what the relationship is here to teach. There's a particular kind of suffering that only exists in this type of love. It isn't just pain, it's a pain laced with recognition, with meaning. With the maddening sense that this matters in a way you can't articulate. That suffering is a compass. It's pointing not toward them, not toward fixing the relationship, but toward something in you that has been waiting, across more time than you can imagine, to finally be seen. The question isn't, how do I stop loving them? The question is, what is this love asking me to finally understand about myself? Answer that, truly answer it, in the honest dark of your own inner life, and the grip begins to loosen. Not because the love disappears, but because you've received what it came to deliver. So here is what this actually looks like, not as theory, but as practice. When the longing rises, don't suppress it and don't chase it. Sit with it, ask it, what are you made of? You'll find underneath the wanting of them something older, a fear, a grief, a part of you that decided long ago that love always cost you something vital. Look at what repeats. Not just in this relationship, across your relationships. The soul sends the same lesson until it's learned, and it tends to send it wearing different faces. What is the pattern? What is the thing that keeps surfacing regardless of who the person is? And then, this is the hardest one, try to separate what you love about them from what you need from them. Because one of those is love, and the other is a wound wearing love's clothing. Cayce believed that the soul's entire journey, across all its lifetimes, through all its relationships, is a slow movement toward one thing. Not perfection, not escape from the world, wholeness. And wholeness doesn't come from finding the right person. It comes from understanding, deeply and without illusion, every part of yourself that your relationships have ever illuminated. The love that hurts you most may be doing the most important work, not because pain is the point, but because you are. If something in this conversation opened a door in you even slightly, then you already know there's more to explore. This is just one thread in something much larger. The soul's journey, as Cayce understood it, is vast and strange, and filled with more compassion than most of us dare to believe. Stay with me, there's so much more waiting. And the next time that love surfaces, the one that doesn't make sense, the one that refuses to close, don't run from it. Ask it what it knows.